Welcome to the Four Visions Market Podcast, a space built on the principles of integrity and reciprocity. Together, we will engage in thought-provoking conversations about plant medicines, why these plants are coming out of the rainforests, jungles, and mountains after thousands of years, and what it means to be in right relationship with the ancestral wisdom cultures and guardians of these traditions. I'm your host, Mariah, founder and director of Four Visions Market. This podcast is the natural evolution in our commitment to providing you, our tribe, with incredible resources to support you on your healing journey through plant medicines. Welcome home.
Welcome back, Four Visions family, to another episode of the Four Visions podcast. So excited to be here with you all today and to be joined by an incredible, radiant woman full of beauty and magic and lots of medicine to share with the world. And so it is my honor to introduce Marya Stark. Thank you so much for being here today, love.
Yeah,
welcome.
Thanks, Mariah. It's wonderful to be here and in Grass Valley and in this beautiful space. And I was just sharing before that I have one of these oils from Four Visions that I got just because I was looking for it, and I love it so much. Yeah.
Thank you. Yay. Well, I also have been a fan of your beautiful music and the way in which you show up in the world. And this is the first time we're meeting here today, but your energy is very easy to connect with through the ethers of the music that you offer, through social media. And I'm really excited to dive into this conversation today. And so with that, I really just want to offer you the space to introduce yourself to our listeners. I'm sure many are familiar with your music, but for those who aren't, a little bit more about your path, the prayer of your life, what you are here for, and what you carry on your altar.
Thank you. Well, I am Marya Stark. I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona, which is hot desert, and I have been chasing waterfalls ever since. I'm like, where's the water? Where's the water? I've been writing songs since I was a child and deeply stirred by the muses of the realms of the wild, of introspection, and the small poems that make their way through the day have been guideposts of assimilating and trying to understand my reality and my perception and my soul and relationships. And I went to school for music therapy and expressive arts therapy, which was a really amazing study of humans and history and ethnomusicology and the healing arts. And that got me really deeply inspired to study energetic medicine. And I did a 2-year study in medical qigong therapy, which opened my mind to different languages around subtle body energies and dreams and Chinese medicine and elemental magic. And then ever since then, I have been in my own study of animism and Tibetan Buddhism and frameworks around womb wisdom and wheels of intelligence that act as maps for us to understand, relate, have feedback with, differentiate self from others. And it's my passion to weave these different studies and the study of language into the study of songwriting and the voice as a tool for empowerment, as an ally in our spiritual growth. And I love performing, and I love making ceremonial art. I love to play with others. I love to collaborate. I love to make imagery. I like to, and I'm compelled by it. Like it's compulsive behavior. I can't not do it. It feels it's an intense internal driving force, and it's a deep relationship between me and the mystery. And so I do, what I can to just maintain that and keep seeing what else is possible. And yeah, right now on my altar, I have some really beautiful anchors into a variety of different elemental prayers that I'm in and some different metaphors that I'm dreaming with. And mostly my altar is full of reminders of the things that bring me deep, like, giddiness, and these moments in life where I felt like I got to contact something that was essence related, that when it's on my altar, I can remind myself of, like, those peak moments of my life where I'm like, oh, yeah, remember that? That's the jam. Like, how can I orient to that on the daily, and how that feeds into different art prayers that I'm in. And that's a little bit about me. So happy to be here.
Thank you for that. What a beautiful introduction, and setting the tone for this conversation in a really robust and joyful way. And I feel like that your energy has that exuberance, and it's very contagious too. And you have this this radiance about you. Have you always been very extroverted and full of energy?
I consider myself an omnivert, where I'm very introverted and very extroverted, and it really depends on what wave I'm riding. I'm in my follicular phase today, so I'm really happy to be here. And but I get definitely very, like, bobolicious, where I gotta, like, go all the way in, and, like, people, it's overwhelming. So I'd say it's both. And I'd say, yes, I've always been that way, where I'm like, yeah, I'm really happy to be here. And, like, oh, I gotta move around. Blah, blah, blah. But I feel, yeah, I have always been full of energy. Yeah, and managing the ride of also being full of sorrows. And that can really tank energy some days. And, like, really actually managing the range has been a big part of my healing path with arts. I think that's why I got really possessed by the muses. They're like, oh, you want to feel range? You want to go with high highs? You want to go with low lows? You want to feel it all? Let's go. I'm like, oh, God.
I love that, though, because we're needing that, you know, the invigoration to reawake the spark of what it means to be alive and in these physical human bodies. And all of that is to say we are here living this human experience, and the range of the human emotions are part of that experience. And when we allow ourselves to feel the fullness of what it means to be here in this moment, in this life, that's when the real juiciness starts to come through. And then that's where we get to really live the colorful living, the beautiful life, you know, and beauty is in all of it. It's in the rage, it's in the sorrow, it's in the joy, it's in the singing, it's in the offering and the fullness of the completion of all of the circles and the cycles that we're here weaving constantly.
Here to that.
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about this process of allowing yourself to go into all of this, and what that was like for you as part of your healing journey, the role that music has played for you in tapping into those different versions and parts of yourself, and any wisdom you have to share for us and those who are tuning in regarding accessing those parts that oftentimes, you know, are colored with this understanding that they're not as valuable as the joy or the peace or the grace, right?
Yeah, well, the first songs I ever wrote were all about being pissed or really sad or mischievous. Like, none of the songs from my childhood or adolescence were like, this is the most beautiful time to be alive, let's all come together. No, they were like, I'm mad about this specific thing, or like, I have an ambiguous sense of dread and sorrow that I need to process. And like, there have been losses that I don't know how to define because I'm 13. And like, I think at that early age, it just was, it was an explosion of being at the edge of being able to contain anything. And because I was in music and I always felt so much with music, like being inside of singing and in choir, I got to access these altered states and these experience of a somatic unity with other people But no one was talking about the spiritual impact of that in a language that was a match for what I was perceiving. And so that paradox was really interesting for me, because I was just like, okay, well, we're all doing this like very human thing that seems mundane, and we're like going to choir practice, but then like we're having these robust conjunctive experiences that feel like God. And like, why aren't we fucking talking about that? Like, what's the deal? And then so I would have these somatic moments of like, damn, I'm feeling everything. And then I'd be at home and I was just like, oh my God, I'm feeling everything. I'm like, oh God, I'm feeling everything. And then I think I was just used to being able to match that feeling with singing. And so I would just go into singing something, anything, God. And then these little metaphors would pop in. It would just be like one little line of a poem that just like said some truth that felt private, and that like I could say out loud to myself and to the sacred witness. And I was like, okay. And then it would just tumble from there. I'm like, I said the one thing. What else do I mean about that? And then these songs would just start tumbling through. And yeah, they really started around longing and ache and being a disturbed teenager, and not having context for what was burning in me and what was like eating me alive as a young person. And so music was the only path that I had to make sense of that and make meaning of these experiences that were very personal, but I knew other people were having them because I was hearing them in other people's art. I'm like, look how many personal experiences people are having, but like they're like making their way into art. And so I felt really invigorated by that. I felt really passionate. I was like, well, I wonder if I go, like how long it would take for me to be able to create something that touched me the way, or touched others the way some of my favorite artists really touched me. And I just was like in. And I think studying then music therapy and getting a framework for how music impacts our neurology and how music is part of this like incredible history of conscious development and the unfolding of culture, and like just like so embridled with it in the human experience, that was really interesting to me. Mm-hmm. And it became a doorway of like studying human behavior, studying what people long for, what I long for, what connects, what has been ruptured, where the deeper sorrows have lived inside of people, and like where the deeper frameworks of communion with the holy have been in, and like what is everything in between. And so it's like a 19, 20, 21-year-old, I was just like thrust into the existential experimentation of all of that, mm-hmm. with through the lens of, you know, my own experiences in that way. And it's just, it's continued to accumulate momentum as I have found expressions and maps of organizing information that have been inspiring for me and helped me process more. And it's just, I feel like my art practice has really just been an experience of documenting my integration of my self-otherworld journey at different stages of my life.
Beautifully said. Yes. And, you know, it's interesting because from what you shared with your childhood introduction to music, and then later on in life having this door open through understanding the therapeutic uses and benefits and healing that comes through music, it makes me think about how so many people who are classically trained or trained through the lens of mainstream society with music, they aren't given the tools or the resources to tap into how the music can actually be this vehicle for healing for themselves. And so there is often like this missing piece, because yes, of course, music therapy, when we think of music therapy, we often think of it healing someone else, but music is healing us, and being able to tap into the sound of creation and utilize the vibrations of sound to heal ourselves, and like you said, as a map to orient ourselves to the inner workings of our own psyche, of what it means to be here in this vessel. To me, my own experience with sound and music and what you're sharing here, I believe, music to be a pathway to embodiment and empowerment and reclaiming our power and coming home to the self, and has so many codes of wisdom embedded within to allow us to tap into those different parts of ourselves. And it sounds like that's how your journey has been with music.
Taking a quick break from today's conversation to share with you a short message, let's talk about plant medicine integration. Integration work is the action taking and the grounding into the fibers of our beings, the ancestral and cosmic wisdom that the plants give us. It is the manifestation of every vision. When we do it well, it becomes the true ceremony, the ceremony of life. The 4 Visions Plant Medicine Integration Program was created to support you in learning how to cultivate the unique process of translating the healing and wisdom received from the plants into your daily life. Our personalized, self-paced learning platform was developed to suit each person's unique availability and commitment levels, with as much hands-on guidance and support or autonomy as you are needing and wanting. Our in-depth curriculum is comprised of a robust digital content series, live monthly workshops, private spiritual consultations, and community connection. Our faculty is made up of renowned spiritual teachers, indigenous wisdom keepers, and integration specialists, each with unique backgrounds and decades working with the plants. We created the curriculum we wish we had had years ago when beginning our plant medicine journeys. Some of the topics we cover throughout the program are immediate integration basics, cultivating your spiritual practice, building a plant allies toolkit, how to make spiritual payments, how to deepen your connection with plants, working with hape, sananga, and cacao as allies, the foundations of microdosing, the art of forgiveness and reconciliation, spiritual hygiene, and plant diets. If you feel called to cultivate your integration practice or are interested in nourishing your spiritual studies and deepening your relationship with plants through a one-of-a-kind transformational container, we welcome you to visit 4visionsintegration.com to learn more and sign up. And now back to today's show.
Totally, and it's always takes a new form depending, there's endless iterations and experiences of it, and just new ways to configure different aspects of it. And I think that's also something that's really exciting to me is sound plus light plus thought creates this whole dream, and I get to co-author and collaborate with and respond to and feel into, and then life keeps lifing in its endless iterations of itself and new innovative expressions. And I'm just whoa, feeling the arts and my voice and song and other expressions of human ingenuity and creativity gets to be this anchor through the waves of continually excavating and discovering more parts and information. And so it's become a great ally in that way, because as you know, as we get older and the psyche matures and more information surfaces, for me as someone who is growing through completely new ways of understanding my own life and the life of the people that I know and relationship, art becomes that much more of a complex container to help me understand and cohere what I value, what I'm mourning, what I really want, what I really appreciate. And then the music just continues to be this space of getting to echolocate.
I love that. And so with this approach, you're allowing your relationship with music to process the inner parts of your being, to gestate, to move energy through you, and it becomes like a study of what it means to be alive.
Yeah, it is. It's like a deep study. And then there's these, also this like feeling at really interesting moments, like the metasphere of like, I'm an individual with my own will and creative needs and desires, and I'm doing this, and then like really feeling like a second person other in the room, being like, we're doing this and I'm receiving a lot of information that has nothing to do with anything that I'm consciously thinking about, and like, whoa, that just set me on a path for the next 15 years. Crazy, like, are we time traveling? What's happening? And then these periods of like feeling like, wow, there's actually a third presence in the room, where there's like me, the other, and the we, and like the three of us are like blooming in this spherical experience of time and the dream that is intangible, it's timeless, it feels like it's all happening simultaneously, and I'm just like getting a peek into how that all works. But then I come back to like Marya mode, and I'm just like, oh no, I'm like on a timeline, and I'm like doing the things, and it comes from me, and then getting the big back, I'm like, there's no time, and it's all been happening, and it's like I'm just sort of like painting the walls of this sphere that I live in with the colors that have always been there, and it's very interesting to have both of those experiences at the same time, like my will, divine will, some kind of collaboration, some kind of surrendering, and that like more happens when I let go of trying to do any of it, including holding on to it.
And so talk to us about this process of songwriting, and you've been touching and a little bit on it, and I think a lot of people who have experienced your music, there's something about the ways in which the words come through you, and how effortlessly it feels that the songs really just are bursts and come through. And songwriting and letting ourselves be vessels in this way for poetry to come through, and spoken word, or words to song, is an incredible process to get in touch with the silent voice of inner wisdom that lies within each one of us. And everyone has access to that place, right? But not all of us know how to access it, or we might be intimidated to go to that place. And I would love to hear a little bit more about your process for tapping in to that place. Maybe you can share a little bit about what you do when you want to open yourself to receive a new song.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing to engage with, because I remember when I first got into songwriting, I loved music so much, and I loved the songs that I loved so much specifically, that I decided deliberately to study them. I would print out the songs that I loved. Like before I really started writing songs, I would like print off the lyrics and chords of all of my favorite songs, and I like made a little binder, and I just like try and teach myself the song. But there was something about memorizing like 100 songs and feeling that I'm not just a passive listener to this music, I'm actively engaged with it. That became part of the study, because now I'm studying the words and the feeling and the method of how all my favorite musical heroes were doing their thing. And so it was this like design of like putting myself in their shoes for a moment, of like, what kind of mood would they have been in to have put words together that way? Or like, look how they put words together, and they like used these types of phrases and frames, and like I just started to let my mind really contemplate what it was that brought me into it, and what did I like about it, what it was the pleasure about that. And so it's like that was the opening. And I think with anything, any craft or artistry, part of the opening is like letting ourselves really relax into our delight and like our pleasure around it. Because when we say like, oh, I like this, what do I like about it? Like, I like this altar. What do I like about it? Oh, I like the symmetry. I like the design on the ground. Oh, I like the way the 2 salt lamps are there. Oh, I like these things. And now all of a sudden I've named to myself all these things that I like that have become building blocks that I can just be like, cool, if I was given different materials, but I've seen now a shape that they could form. Now I can form this creatively. And I'm being influenced by how I defined the things that I liked. So I did that with songs. I'm like, oh, I really like how they like put a little word here and then they did a big chunk thing and then they kind of like went off on some crazy shit over here and then they like brought it back, you know, like that's cool. And they like talked about color the whole time, or like they talked about, they like kept, they did a conversation between these 2 voices. Oh, that's interesting. What are 2 voices inside of me that I could have a conversation with? And then I would just experiment. You know, it was just like thinking about like, oh, I'm having a mood and I'm having like one little word, like, let's go. And because I had really thought like, oh, I like how they zoom into describing the room that they're in. I'm like, well, how would I describe the room that I'm in with this tree that I saw that was talking to me? You know, like what was around it? You know, what are the root systems around it? What are the roots touching? What's talking to it on the roots? And it became this like process of curiosity, asking the song lots of questions. Or just like, and then once it started rolling, like it would just be shown almost like a dream. Like I'm a very visual person, so it would just be like kind of like a dream unfolding. And then I would just be like trying to like dictate the dream, like document the dream, describe it with as many words. If I didn't have quite the right word, I would like put in a placeholder. I might like research word later, and I would research words. Like I'd just be like, I've said this word 17 times, you know, like let's find out 15 other words that would be there. Do any of them work? No. Oh, but it's there. And then it becomes like the asking body out loud. One of my songwriting students in Temple of the Muse, I always encourage people to cultivate the asking body. Like if I'm asking, now I'm in relationship with what's happening. I'm not like just being like, you know, like, how do I do this? It's just like, well, what are 2 possible directions it could go? You know, like who's speaking? What are they talking about? What are my senses experiencing? What's not happening? And like through the cultivation of learning how to ask interesting questions of the art as it's being happened, then all of this information comes. And then I just describe what I'm contemplating. Yeah, and it's, you know, cultivating imagination. You know, it's just like, okay, well, what am I imagining could happen? And then things just pop out that I wouldn't have ever thought about. I'm like, wow, that's interesting. And like some of that things that pop out, you know, then later are 2 feet like doorways of my unconscious process. I'm like, oh, I was holding on to some shit, or like, oh, I must have seen that in a movie 20 years ago. Yeah. That's weird. Popping out now. Here it goes. So those are some of the frames. Asking, getting curious, researching words, researching roots of words, starting anywhere, really looking at what you love about the songs that you're the most obsessed with, memorizing songs that you love, and just like pretending. Like there was this moment where I'm just like, I pretended that like all of these songs that I memorized were songs that I could have written. You know, just like taking on the identity for a moment of the person who was the voice that channeled that song in, and being like, cool, that was a cool muse. Like, could we be in relationship, or are there muses like that I could form relationship with, because this is really like resonant, and then like building relationship that way with those realms.
Very cool. Wow, I love that, and I'm so happy you brought in this element of being inspired. I had the privilege of taking a workshop with Starling Arrow last year, and one of the things that really stayed with me was this permission that you and the other beautiful ladies gave us all to be inspired by other artists and other music. And I think that is often, you know, this fear of imposter syndrome is often a hindrance in the songwriting process and the creative experience as a totality. And just how you're speaking about it now too, it's like tapping into that potential that exists, and allowing ourselves to be inspired and curious and explore, and that process that you were talking about now and that you shared a lot about in the workshop has really helped me over the last 6 months. I'm in this process of finalizing the recording of my first album. It's been beautiful, and all the songs were already written, but then when I went to go prepare to record them, it gave me permission to play a little bit more with words and replace a few words, and so it's been like giving spaciousness to really be creative and play. That element of play is really special, and also this willingness to allow songs to transform and to evolve, and that they don't have to stay the exact same the way that we received them the first time. And just wanted to share that because this element of being inspired and being open to the fluidity of the evolution of the ways in which music and voice and words come through us is something that really teaches us so much about life, and that life is always changing. And when we tap into this beautiful expression of music, it does give us this permission to not be so rigid, right? And to allow ourselves to step into this place of constantly growing, of constantly evolving, of change, and being in awe of that beautiful medicine of change.
Yeah, I love this piece around change. I mean, that was like a really cool, interesting tour, because as a little kid, before I started writing my own songs, I would do like comedy versions of songs that I love. Like, oh, this is a song, and then it's just like make up my own words to do a spoof version. And like that was a way to just see what I could create in the same structure of the song that was happening, but like from a place of a joke. Like, I'm not trying to make this song mine, I wrote this song. No, it's like I wrote a spoof of this other song. It's hilarious, and it was a joke, and it was an exercise, and I did that a lot, actually. And I find that in my music therapy practice, this was actually a way to get the creative juices flowing. Like, we would just take songs that were the favorite songs, and we'd write our own verses, and it was a way to connect and just be in the ride and like not have to create everything right away. And I think that that's an interesting step. You don't want, like if you're on the songwriting journey, you don't stay there, obviously, but it's a great first step for someone who just can't like get out of the like self-doubt spell. It's just like start with imitation, just do it. And then like know that you're doing a practice, like an exercise of imitation, and then you move into iteration. And then you're like, oh, this song is different, but it kind of sounds like that, but it's my own. I'm like changing things. I'm doing my own thing. Okay, you're doing an iteration of something. That's the second evolution. And then you do that enough times and you get really innovative. Yeah. Because then you're putting together things in a brand new way, but you've already practiced with the Lego blocks in ways that maybe they were rudimentary, or maybe they're just echoing something you've heard. And like, that's totally a normal method and progression of growth as a songwriter. And so I'd say, yeah, if you want to like get started, like a lot of people who are starting like to make vases, for example, like you're just imitating the vase that your teacher made. You're like, make it like this. And I'm like, okay, and then you're like, okay, now carve something. I'm like, I don't know, like carve whatever you want. You're like, I'll try something. It's like, oh, that was weird. And then all of a sudden, 10 years later, you're like, I'm making vases and they're so beautiful. And I'm adding shit over here and I'm like doing stuff over there. And like, look what I carved, It's like, that didn't start the first vase you made. You made like crappy little imitation vases of the vase that was the demo, And so same with songwriting. You just like gotta find a demo song that you can pick apart and put together and experiment with, and then do that, 50 times, and then stuff will start happening.
Yeah, I love it. I love just listening to you, because you're in this place of like, you can feel your joy and your passion behind this process. And such a beautiful gift to have discovered that space of joy, and to let that be guiding your life, and really, inspiring the path that you get to walk. And want to touch on this element of joy. It just feels so present here in this room as I'm connecting with you and we're talking. And this is one of our themes for this month. And really, I would love to hear from you, your journey with joy, because you had mentioned, at the beginning, that this, that you've had like many different just chapters of getting in touch with the fullness of your emotions. And I think that getting in touch with all of our emotions is important to be able to access this pureness of joy and really feel that. And yeah, so this element of living from that place, this element of getting in touch with that place, living from innocence too and lightheartedness, tapping into this place of curiosity and wonder for life. All of these themes are kind of, a part of our July theme, and this podcast episode will be launching, and we'd just love to bring that into the conversation.
What about joy? Joy is an interest, what is it? What is joy? I feel right now in this moment pretty joyful. I just completed something. I released my album today, the day that we're filming this, Underground River. And I feel really joyful. And I also feel my heart like beep, 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 beep. Like they say, like joy is like an expression of like heart, like really activated heart. And I think for me, it's a balance of getting to have experiences where I get to go all the way into the joy. When I read something the other day, my friend sent me, they're like, joy, like we don't do healing to like be with the parts that are wounded in trauma. We like do healing to be with joy. And I felt really moved by that. I don't know who wrote that, but I felt very like, oh, it got me, because there is that, I can contact that childlike wonder, like imprinted experience of discovery, wow, appreciation, wow, and like heart wildness, and then having experiences of like, oh wait, and then like rattling joy, but then also the pain, and like trying to be with both of those things. I think my journey currently is how to make space for feeling it all, so that like abiding, like joy isn't the goal. Joy is one of an experience that happens with certain types of alignment and a type of appreciation. And I do feel like I can access joy pretty quickly because I think life is really funny, and cultivating a good sense of humor about how fucked up and weird things are has really helped me to stay in contact with joy at almost any moment, right up against, despair and grief and praise. The beautiful book by Martine Purcell, which has like been a deep companion. It's like, wow, praising and opening and like having the experience of wonder, and it does feel right there with all of the other material. And I think I'm in a current practice of continuing to let both be in the room at the same time, because I think parts of me are just like, well, if I'm in pain or if part of me is contracted, joy is ridiculous. And it's just like, well, if I'm being really joyful, we don't want to look at that. That's, kills the vibe. And I think for sustaining a life that is led open-heartedness and like with the types of orientations that I aspire to maintain as often as possible, that's what it comes down to, is like joy is here, sorrow is here. We walk with both on the path, and they are fluid, and there's a lot of interchanging, and this being with both, and not as a way to bypass the other, like to actually be with the truth of here we are. It's weird. People die. Well, we don't get what we want. And life is worth living, and it's really beautiful.
Taking a short break from today's episode to share about an incredible product line that we absolutely love. It's called Clarea, which means clarity and illumination. Clarea was created from divine inspiration and guidance that our coherence of body, mind, and soul are born from inner clarity. These creations are alchemized with the intention to bring forth health and well-being to the totality of your temple, to nourish a vital, thriving life. Holistically handcrafted with love and care for your well-being of mind, body, and soul. An offering that is life-giving, relevant, and aligned for all life and the future generations to come. Chlorea is formulated from over 33 years of the founders' combined in-depth, dedicated study, research, application, and experience with holistic health, Ayurveda, herbalism, permaculture, detoxification methodology, and healing. Everything is 100% organic or wild-crafted, biodynamic, homegrown, vegan, botanical, pure, all ingredients of the purest, highest grade, sourced ethically and sustainably. Chlorea is a full-circle sustainable project that aims to create as big as an impact for our Mother Earth and all life as possible. We are 100% aligned on every level with this beautiful company's mission, and for that reason, we felt called to share this incredible product line with you, our Four Visions family. 10% of all proceeds go directly to nonprofit organizations aimed at environmental regeneration and restorative efforts, specifically for water cleanup, protection and preservation of the waters, restoration of bee populations, protection of indigenous sacred lands, rights, and natural resources, reforestation, and endangered species and animal rights. Check out the link in the show notes and make sure to use the code FVFamily to snag some savings on your order. And now back to today's episode.
It's so true, this ability to hold the duality of life and find, the lightheartedness and the heaviness too, be able to widen our perspective in those moments. And I do feel that the skill set of returning to joy and learning how to bring ourselves back into that place of joy marks a very important part of our emotional maturation and our spiritual evolution too, is learning that dance. And so you mentioned like this process of accessing joy, and I just wanted to highlight that because I believe that when we do something over and over, even if it doesn't feel natural at the beginning or feels awkward or maybe it just takes effort, if we do it enough times, it becomes effortless and it becomes part of our skill set or toolbox, the way in which we can approach life. And being able to find joy, even if it's finding the joy in the silliness or finding the joy in the sorrow even, of like, oh, this is happening, this is really hard, but I'm gonna have the perspective to zoom out enough, just enough to be able to see that this is not forever, this is not permanent, this is my experience in this moment, but joy is still there, even in that moment of hardship. It's like underlaying in the background, right? And so to be able to hold both of those energies unlocks us to this way of living with wisdom. It unlocks us to being able to live with greater awareness and appreciation for the gift of life. And it is a gift, right? Even in the most scary or darkest or heaviest moments, we can never lose sight of this valuing of our lives. When we lose valuing of our lives, that's when we're really stuck in a deep hole. And this being able to give value, to give honor, to celebrate this great blessing that we've been given to be here in this incarnation right here on this planet with everything that's happening right now in the world. This is a great, great blessing. And so for me, at least, returning to joy, learning how to come back to joy, or maybe joy comes in the form of gratitude or in the form of acknowledgement of this is happening, but it's not the fullest extent of everything that's happening, or to not let ourselves get so caught up in the depths that we lose sight of the fact that joy is there waiting for us to come back to her. I feel that this is part of, balancing the duality of life and learning how to walk through this life with greater awareness and greater connection with life itself.
Yeah, I was just speaking, there's this piece around joy too, because I associate joy with the fire element, was like connected to the heart, and that there is this like like we can take robust, wrathful, compassionate action with like joy things, you know, and like in some of the like Buddhist schools of thought, like the big wrathful beings that are like, I'm gonna come and have such compassionate, clear boundaries around what's not fucking okay, and I'm terrifying. And like those ones are full of joy about that. You know, like it's like, and that's a really deep part of for me to walk through, especially as I'm bearing witness to our global family and seeing all of the challenges and strife and rising up that the people are doing in order to say like fuck that and like come with clarity and discernment, and that too is an expression. It can be a deep expression of joy. It is. It's an expression of joy and love and fire, and like the fullness of like the power of discernment coming through. And so I just want to name that as well. It's just like to like really get to have the full expression, and like if we go all the way into the depths and they're like, there's action to take, that joy can be at our back as we like keep putting logs in the fire that need to be sustained in order to be in integrity.
Yes, thank you so much for saying that, naming that. Well, today we're celebrating your beautiful double release of the album and the beautiful short film that you released. So what is Underground River?
Underground River actually was born both of profound joy and deep sorrow. So like I had a very interesting dream that was very joyful and like surreal, of being this aquatic water essence deva spirit in another life, you know, predating human life, and dancing and making song underwater with my other aquatic deva spirit beings, water fairies, creating seeds of light that generated life forms. And I loved this dream, and I was like, it created a very beautiful relationship with the elemental guardians of water, that then was nourished by going and experiencing this waterfall in Maui. And I was just like so radically overwhelmed with joy and childlike wonder and appreciation and excitement and exuberance and singing and just like being in the vibe. Like that was so joyful, and that combination led me to decide, I was like, I'm going to make an album about this thing that I love, that just feels really good. But it wasn't until I hit a profound loss and deep sorrow, and that I couldn't move the grief in my body. It was just sucks. And I was like, I don't have words for this. I got to move it somatically. I got to move it through sound. It needs to move. And so then I was like, oh, I should make the Underground River album, that like, because I'm feeling this subterranean movement of grief that needs to go. And I'm like up here and I can't do it. And it like needs to come from here. So Underground River became the metaphor of this water prayer, of this thing moving from inside of my body that didn't have words. That was connected to something greater. And then in the last few years, it has emerged into this beautiful collective prayer, so much collaboration, all the women's ceremonies, the like many rivers of life coming together, and this reconnection to this original prayer that I had of this water deva and being a water deva and these ancestral water spirits, and the joyful songs that permeate all of the waterways in the planet, and the being able to listen deeply and abide in them as a way to actually let the deeper griefs of the body move. And so it's been very powerful. It feels really joyful to release it today, and like also liberating and also reconnecting. And yeah, that's how I'm feeling today about it.
Wow. So beautiful. And I just want to say a prayer for this beautiful offering.
Thank you.
That this beautiful vessel of music that came through you in this way reach the hearts and the minds of all those who are needing the medicine of the water, and that it can bring soothing and clarity and a breath of fresh air and hope and color to the lives that we live, and that this birthing and this offering that comes through you feels really aligned with your heart and the work that you're here to do in this life, and that this music reach far and wide and really come full circle in its impact and its healing waves of divine light and beauty. And so just celebrating you today, Marya, sending a lot of prayers for the beautiful birthing.
Thank you so much. And just shout out to my beautiful collaborators, Daniel Berkman, who crafted that album with me and co-composed it. Thank you, Daniel. And to Jaden Summit of Earth-Based Media, who helped support this beautiful film to be made, and all the women in Asheville that were a part of it. And Daniel Caners, who did the wonderful cover art of that record. Just bless all of your lives and everyone else who helped mix it, Theo, animate it, Tessa, and everybody else. So many people that has really come together. And Earth Daughters Festival, where we did a huge art installation around the underground rivers last weekend.
Oh, fun.
So it's just, really beautiful to see how many people are like finding their way to contribute to this water prayer and finding and organizing magic, and feels like, this beautiful offering of storytelling that gets to be collaborative. And I'm excited to see what else happens.
And also devotion to the waters too, because this album is that very much. You can feel it. I was listening a little bit this morning, and it's like it's a payment. It's an offering to the waters of life, and how beautiful to devote an entire album and project to a specific element and have that journey of being in relationship with the sacred waters, and what an incredible way to steward and be in relationship with nature. Truly is like through offerings and this way of music and the dedication that comes through weaving and a storyline of an album and a journey and the film and everything that you put into it. It's like, this is for the waters, right? And so, I'm curious how this process was for you as far as your relationship with the water and how you have approached the birthing.
Yeah, well, it's been really interesting. I keep saying that word. It's been fascinating to see, like, to name a prayer, a poem that becomes a prayer, that becomes a spell, that becomes kind of this timeline that you're inside of. And Underground River has been, especially the last 4 months or so, I've been on this like underground river ride and traveling to different places to be in ceremony, to facilitate ceremony, to gather waters, to be in water ceremonies, to gather and exchange waters at different headwaters and different springs, and going on like profound hot springs journeys, and for years chasing waterfalls and going to these different waterfalls and like listening and catching songs there, and being initiated by the waters in different ways, both specifically going on pilgrimages to spontaneous, like, here we are, this unexpected baptism happening now. And and it started, my relationship with the waters started before this album. Creatively, Sapphire I made was a different kind of relationship with that color and that energetic and the glaciers specifically. And I was in a beautiful project with Kali Scintilla and Evoke, and I got to be a water elemental communicator inside of their elemental album, which is such a beautiful initiation as well. And so it's been with me for a long time. I'm a Cancer. I got a lot of Scorpio in there. You know me, the waters, we go deep. And how has it changed? I feel in this process I've become a carrier of global waters. And so like meeting other water carriers and facilitating water ceremonies and having that has become a new part of my life that I didn't. It was an unexpected gift of this journey, and so now I hold waters from all over the world and continue to listen and be guided and deepen in my appreciation, and I think deepen in the willingness to allow the waters of my own body to move differently.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, you have some exciting things going on, and we want to just also bring in what's coming up for you this fall, a beautiful tour.
Yeah, I'm going to be going on tour in the West Coast, so keep a lookout for the She Rose tour, and that's going to be a very robust performance experience with an incredible co-producer, Sedona Swan, and a wonderful dance crew, and we're going to have a lot of fun. So keep your eyes out for that.
Cool.
Yeah.
What's being on tour like? How do you sustain that energy?
Just build up the chi. We have a battery. I build up on my battery. I charge up all my battery packs beforehand, and just being with the people. The people sustain. The people help. The people who come and experience help. There's a reciprocity and exchange there, and resting in between and going to the waters, jumping in some cold waters along the way. Yeah.
Love that. Well, so many blessings to all of the beautiful creations that are coming through, and this beautiful, exciting offering that you have coming through the world. And thank you for showing up in the way that you do for your medicine and your music. I just want to send you a lot of prayers for your path, so that you always feel connected to the source of life, and that this work that you are here doing feel always nourishing and in alignment with your heart and connection to spirit, and then you find this place of balance, of equilibrium and harmony within the giving and the receiving, and that your path continue to be blessed and full of a lot of beauty and music and song and celebration.
Thank you, Mariah. Super appreciate being here. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. If you're still listening to this long, my name's Mariah. So happy to be here. Thank you.
You love.
On behalf of the Four Visions family, we want to thank you for listening to our podcast. We hope you have enjoyed this conversation and have gained seeds of wisdom that will nourish your spiritual path. If you have a moment, please leave us a review, as this helps us to reach more people. For more resources and information about the plant path, and for the highest quality spiritual tools and botanicals, please visit us at fourvisions.com. We are grateful for your support and look forward to continuing this journey with you all. Until next time.